Hello and welcome back to another episode of Movie of the Week times DCU Daily. We are once again combining the two things together because, well, we have a lot to talk about. As you can see on the graphic down there, we have had an incredibly eventful weekend at Comic Con. If you were at Comic Con, then of course you got to see and hear all about it, especially if you were in the Hall H. But if you weren't, and especially if you've been hiding under a rock the last few days, we're going to catch you up on everything Marvel announced. And then later on, we're going to get into DCU Daily and we're going to talk about everything that DC announced at this week's Comic-Con event, and we have some other news from James Gunn regarding Superman. So there's a lot to get into, and so we're going to dive right into it. And of course, as always, joining me today, I've got John. How are you doing today?
Good. Well, until we get to a certain announcement, then I won't be good, but I have a lot to say about it. So let's jump into it quick because this is going to be a very long show.
Yes,
So
it
yeah.
is. Indeed, it is. Let's dive into it, right? Like I today wanted to kind of wrap my head around this whole thing, everything that was going down,
Oh
top to
yeah.
bottom. And because last night, like social media feed just filling up, like you're watching and you're just trying to react and you're trying to catch up. And
So much.
basically, I was a little bit overwhelmed as anybody would be in trying to do
Mm-hmm.
that. So I went into IGN. So IGN has done a pretty good job of kind of combining all this stuff in one place. And if what it really boils down to is there were like 4 or 5 big announcements at the Hall H panel that Marvel did. So
Yeah.
one can say that, at least in my opinion, the first 4 of those 5 things were expected announcements for the most part, updates, if you will. There weren't
I would say
surprises per se, right?
3 of them I think were like expected. 4 was I think confirming a rumor
Confirm
because
a
there was
rumor.
the rumor, but it was like
Yeah.
not totally confirmed yet. And then there was the last thing, and we'll get into that.
Yes.
But the
So
first this
exactly.
little thing you
Yes.
can see right there.
So let's dive into it. So look, now the first thing that they talked about at this Hall H panel was they went in and started out with like blowing smoke on stage, and then Kevin Feige comes out, does the intro, and then right after the intro, they dive into saying, "Okay, we're going to talk about these 3 upcoming movies, and the first of them."
Oh, I think he froze for a little bit. So it looks like that the first announcement had something to do with Captain America: Brave New World, which was interesting. It has like a lot of stuff attributed to it. Um, so first things first, it does confirm. Now I haven't seen the footage because like the footage kind of gets taken down fairly quickly. So it looks like they confirm Giancarlo Esposito's character, which confirms our one of the many villains we are going to see in Captain America: Brave New World, as well as some other stuff that we weren't expecting. At least I didn't expect it. So the first thing, well, it's looks like it'll just be me for now. Um his connection's a little spotty, but unfortunately I don't have any pictures to show you guys. But so Captain America: Brave New World, they one of the it seems like a many villains that's going to be in this movie, Giancarlo Esposito, as I mentioned, he is going to play Sidewinder, and he is, I believe, the leader of the Serpent Society, which should be interesting, I guess. Like, I mean, I know that they teased Serpent Society years ago when that was like going to be the fake announcement for like Civil War, because they were like, oh, for the third Captain America movie, it's going to be Serpent Society. And then at the end of the panel, they're like, oh, no, we're doing Civil War. And then it's like, oh my God, Civil War. That's crazy. And then we got one of the worst MCU movies. So yay. Anyway, so I mean, Serpent Society is a very good, very popular Captain America villain. So it's cool that they're doing that now. It's just the weird thing is, it's like, out of all the things to get Giancarlo Esposito for, out of all the things he's talked about, out of all the things he's fan casted as, Sidewinder? Really? That's
Well, by the
that's
way,
that's
first,
it.
so I say something? I think it is kind of cool that we've kind of come full circle with the whole Serpent Society red herring that has come to now basically be paid off years later. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. I don't. That's not what I would have, pegged them having him come into play, like that character, right? It just, and also this is clearly them trying to return to a more grounded version of the MCU. So I'm wondering then, like, how exactly does this all add up?
I don't know how grounded it could possibly be. No, because this is like one of the 4 confirmed villains for the movie. You have Sidewinder. It's confirmed that Red Hulk is going to be it, and Red Hulk is usually a bad guy. And then they have the Sabra character, who's now known as Ruth, and which is going to be a whole fucking can of worms now from a political angle. And then there was one more. There was a the leader. That's 4 villains,
dude. Not only
what
that,
is this, Spider-Man 3? Like, this is ridiculous.
But that's not the only thing. They're introducing a new Falcon in this movie as well.
And like, it was a Hispanic guy, Danny Ramirez, I think it was. I don't know if it was the actor or the character, but he was introducing Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But yeah, he's usually considered the second Falcon, but it's like,
it's just starting to get filled up a little bit, because I'm like, I don't trust Marvel these days with being able to kind of juggle that many balls at once. You know, it's a little, it's hard to stick the landing when you have that many new pieces, especially because it's enough that you're introducing Harrison Ford as Thaddeus Ross. I mean, obviously the character has been around in the MCU, but now they're expanding the scope of that character in a way that hasn't been done before. But outside of just the fact that, you know, there's maybe too many characters and too many things going on, there's a few, I don't know if you mentioned this while I was, you know, hiding in the jungle when my internet went down, but one of the big things that came out of the footage that they showed at the event was this the idea that the world's governments are fighting over adamantium from Tiamat and the Pacific Ocean. Like, they're not only are they addressing the whole Eternal situation finally, but apparently, like, that whole thing became adamantium.
Yep,
that's a lot of fucking adamantium.
I remember hearing that as a rumor, and I'm like, please, for the love of God, and let that not be true. And now it's confirmed, and it's like, are you fucking like, out of all the things to finally address this stupid plot thread that has not been addressed for the past 10 movies, and now the Eternals becomes adamantium? Like, really? That's like saying, like, Darkseid invaded and then his body got crystallized into the earth and it became nth metal. Like, what? That's like the fucking stupidest thing I've ever fucking heard. But this is current Marvel now, so no stupid idea is off the table. It feels like.
To me, yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a reach. It is really like something that if I were to say, look, can they pull it off? Yes, they can. Is it a lot to ask of Marvel these days? I would say so too, because they haven't really done very well with these kind of like large stories. And Marvel has brought a lot of top tier actors in the past, like Benicio del Toro playing the Collector, and the stuff like, you know, why am I forgetting her name? Glenn Close was the leader of the Nova Corps, right? Like, these Oscar caliber actors and actresses just coming into Marvel playing, you know, these, you know, characters who, quite frankly, didn't get a ton of screen time, and, you know, like, they're not really around anymore in the MCU. So I do wonder if this is another instance of that. But Giancarlo Esposito has also sort of been talking up on the con circuit the last few weeks, I should say. He's been going to all these other Comic Cons, and he's been talking up the idea that he's not only going to be around for this movie, because I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, but if I remember correctly, his character wasn't in this movie until they went and did like reshot most of it.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a significant,
like 3 times.
They basically redid the whole fucking film. I'm like, that is like to me, it's kind of worrisome. But then also, he's been mentioning,
like, they've been really bad.
It was bad. But all that aside, like, it looks like, if you go by what he has said, is he's going to be sticking around. His character is going to end up in a TV show on Disney Plus. Like, he's not just in this for the movie. But I'm starting to wonder.
You get a TV show. You get a TV show. You get a TV show. Everybody gets. I'm going to get a TV show on Disney Plus in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point. Like,
I mean, the other big thing from this is in the trailer. I think the version of the footage of the trailer they showed at Comic-Con that talked about. Well, I think Harrison Ford's character tells Anthony Mackie's Captain America that, hey, I want to put the Avengers back together, which people were like, oh my god, the Avengers. I'm like, but they're probably talking. This is likely like, oh, we're gonna put the Avengers together, but they're gonna be like working as a government sanctioned, you know, entity. Which is, if they go that route, that's sort of, you're going down the same path of what the whole reason for Civil War, that
Yeah.
movie exist. Like
So that then that's
it's
gonna mean nothing. Like
it's a bit repetitive, right? Like I want that's to me. I don't know. Like I don't know how to feel about that. What it's but hey, look, at the end of the day, this movie is set to come out next. Isn't this the first movie on their? They've got like 4 movies next year. Am I right? Like it's 3 or 4, and this is the first one. So we'll see how it performs. But
I will happily fucking blame RDJ. Like I will have like this dude. I will get into it later, but like I'll blame I will happily blame RDJ. I don't give.
we'll
I'll
definitely
blame
get into it.
Marvel,
Trust
but I'll
me.
also blame him. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Kill the
Well,
actors. Fuck them.
Next up, they talked about Thunderbolts. So Thunderbolts is a project that when they first announced it, they were like, "Oh yeah, this is Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad. What is it? Is it anything that we have not seen before? And is it going to be worth it?" Right? I think to me personally, I wanted to see more of that Red Guardian and Yelena Belova like relationship
Yeah.
develop, like that father-daughter kind of thing, because I think ultimately that that element of family that they had introduced in the Black Widow movie was really, really well done. But then after that, it just sort of devolved into a very lackluster
Yeah.
film.
I don't have friends. I got family.
Verified family.
Exactly.
Like, joking aside, it was like one of the very few good things about Black Widow. Like I watched it and I'm like, I had no intention of seeing it, but like there was nothing good out at the time. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'll watch this. And I'm like, all right, that was fine. I mean, you butchered Smells Like Teen Spirit, but like, oh, whatever, I'll take it, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crap, but like, I'm like, all right, it's not the worst thing Marvel's done.
But dude, like David
it.
Harbour showed up to this like in his Red Guardian costume, and he's like, "Guys, you didn't get my email? I thought you guys are not dressed up." Like he's just asking the crowd. I had fun with this part. I was like, really, like, of course David Harbour is gonna be in. He's gonna pull that off. Like he's gonna be the heart of and soul of this movie. And the other thing I noticed is, of course, that asterisk next to the title, which
they're not going to explain
like,
it till like after the movie comes out.
Right. But I mean, what does, based on what you saw about Thunderbolts, does it make you any more excited or less excited for the movie?
I don't care about Marvel. I genuinely don't. I'm just here to complain about it because it's fun to complain about Marvel. Like I don't care about I don't care about Black Captain America. I don't care about Marvel's The Suicide Squad. I don't care about Fantastic Four babies. I don't care. Like the thing is, like looking at this team is like you have. I mean, yeah, David Harbour was fun as Red Guardian, and Florence Pugh is always a joy to see, and Sebastian Stan's great, and but like I don't give a fuck about Ghost. That's not Taskmaster. Like no matter that's not Taskmaster. That is a bitch in armor. That's all that is. That's not Taskmaster. All right.
I didn't mind it until the last part of the movie.
I remember
squandered
my buddy after watching, he's like, "That ain't Taskmaster. That's a broad in armor. What the fuck you talking about?" And then you have U.S. Agent, who was like the bad guy of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, even though he was like the only decent character throughout that entire show.
It was done well until I think it's
like, hey,
again, they didn't stick the landing.
Meanwhile, it's like he's the most interesting and developed, and
the nuance of the character was very like they really
tackled straw man, and it like didn't work, and then he redeemed himself, and it was like, no, he was good from the beginning. What are you talking about? Like, what the fuck?
Exactly, yeah.
So it's just like it just seems like this is like this is what like Marvel and DC have always done for years. This is nothing new. I mean, like going back to even the 40s, fucking Aquaman is a ripoff of Namor, and like Hawkeye's a ripoff of Green Arrow. Like all these characters are ripoffs of each other.
Yeah.
And like Marvel has been like when Batman versus Superman got announced, Marvel was like, yeah, that's when we decided to do Civil War. When New Gods got announced, ironically, it got canceled. That's when Eternals got announced. When the Suicide Squad, as in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, did really well, that's when Thunderbolts got. And I'm sure DC has like DC ripped off the idea of the cinematic universe entirely after Iron Man was hugely successful. So it's like these companies have been like copying each other for years. It's just like it's no secret that they're just kind of ripping off each other. And it's just, but the thing is, one does it worse than the other, one does it better. It's just like it's all just jumbled, and like I've just stopped caring about what they do now, and it's just like it's just like it's all jumbled because it's too much. It's overloaded. Like, and we just were just like, this is too much. This is too much. It's like, stop. Give us a breather, give us a break. But it's like, no, we gotta throw things at the camera constantly so to get all these people excited. And it's just like I love comic books. I love these characters, but it's just like this is just too much even for me. And I live and breathe this shit. So it's like when I'm saying that, that's disheartening, but it's also the reality of like you've made me not care about these characters anymore because like of what you've done.
Yeah, I think ultimately, like when it comes to the movie Thunderbolts, what they presented to us still didn't give me like the reason for why this movie exists.
Yeah.
And the reason why this movie exists most likely is because Harrison Ford's, Thaddeus Ross becomes Red Hulk and goes out of control, and then they bring in the Thunderbolts to do something about it, which I guess in a world absent of the Avengers, this would be the next best thing, maybe. Like, that's my closest guess, and that's probably why we're only getting scant details, because the reason for this movie existing is a spoiler for the movie that comes before it in Captain America: Brave New World. But we'll see how it plays out. This is the next announcement. This was the third announcement of the night, where we not only did a Fantastic Four logo, but we got the first steps. Now, dude, Fantastic Four First Steps is probably the most underwhelming, like
the dumbest
subtitle to the title of a movie that I've seen. I mean, look, it took me a while to warm up to Dawn of Justice, because every time, like when they first announced Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, all I could hear in my head was Bane's voice, like the Dawn of Justice. Like I was like, how dumb and stupid is that? And even to this day, I'm like, they should have just said Batman versus Superman and called it a day. Or like, because you don't need that. And I'm like, why?
But it's like, we gotta tease the Justice League, guys. It's like,
but Dawn of Justice is like probably the worst idea that an intern at the marketing office came up with, and they decided to stick with it because
until this is worse.
Until
this makes Dawn of Justice look like
it's
amazing.
It's
look like the Fellowship of the Ring. Like,
I'm like, they should have just done the Fantastic Four, and then now it's the definitive version, and that's it. Then just move from there. Why call it First Steps?
I get
it's like, the only thing is if they were gonna like walk on the moon in their
exactly
universe,
what I was thinking. Like, it's a space thing. They want to join it to space. It's gonna be in the 60s. So that's essentially what they're doing. It's like the first steps, like one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. That type of shit. So I get that, but First Steps makes it sound like this is like Muppet Babies or some shit, where it's like this is Fantastic Four babies, where it's like, oh, they're taking their first. Come here, little guy, you're taking your first steps. It's like it just sounds juvenile, and it just sounds so silly, and it's just like, I can't get. I'm not calling it First Steps. I'm calling it Fantastic Four.
Yeah, dude, remember like when we were so we were like messaging back and forth prepping for the show today, and you told me like, all right, I'm gonna get you some like images from FFFS, and I was like, wait, what do you mean? And then like it took me a minute to realize that you had just abbreviated the title, and I was like, oh, for fucking fuck's sake, because like that to me is another abbreviation for FFFS,
that's
and
perfect.
That's probably an apt description of what I think about. Look, I can warm up to it. But I quite frankly, I think when Marvel started to do this in the beginning and in the early part of the MCU, I loved Captain America, the first Avenger. It worked for that particular movie. But then the first Thor movie was simply Thor. The first Iron Man movie was simply Iron Man. The first Spider-Man movie that's not the MCU, Tobey Maguire, was simply Spider-Man.
I
When
don't
they
get
made a
this
Batman
anymore.
movie in 89, it was called Batman. When they made Superman in 78, it was called Superman.
Well,
To the
well,
point,
technically
it was
Superman the
Superman the
movie.
movie, whatever. But like, now it's James Gunn. See, James Gunn knows what he's doing. He's like, you're not gonna call it Superman Legacy because we don't want to make a box set where you can get the first 4 Superman movies and then the Brendan Routh one and then Superman because it's not the same continuity. Kind of like, when they were like, oh,
Yeah.
Batman Returns, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, Batman Begins. Then Christopher Nolan decided he did not want to associate with the 90s naming convention, so he went with the Dark Knight. So, or like the first X-Men movie, X-Men. And then they said X2.
And then they really went off the rails because then it wasn't X-Men 2. It was X2
it was
X-Men United, which is a whole,
it was
and then
whatever.
X-Men The Last
Okay,
Stand, which is like
but
a
the
whole
point is,
fucking
like,
can of worms.
but you see what I'm trying to say, right? Like, it's like, why do you need it to be Fantastic Four's : something something something? Just call it the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Like James Gunn knows what he's doing. It's just Superman, right? Like the
I mean, to be
simplicity of the
fair,
title.
that is a good argument of like maybe if they get enough flack for this. I
Mhm.
mean, Superman Legacy Superman was announced as Superman Legacy, and James Gunn was like, eventually, you know what? I'm gonna change it. It's just Superman now. So maybe at some point, if enough people complain, they'll be like, okay, it won't be Fantastic Four first steps. It'll just be the Fantastic Four, and there you go. Or it'll be the Fantastic Four something else attributing with the villain or something like that if they want to have a subtitle. So they have room to change it. I mean, they're still filming right now, or they're just going to start filming.
Dude, no, production is going to officially start this Tuesday. They brought the cast out. So, I mean, like, I give praise to the cast members for flying all the way out to San Diego for literally probably a few hours of their day and then flying all the way back to London to then start filming on Tuesday. Like that is a lot of, I mean, the commitment to the craft, and also, of course, Marvel probably is paying them handsomely for it. But yeah, they had the whole cast there, so that was great. I mean, it was good to see them together for the first time in an official setting. But to me, at the end of the day, it's one less thing you need to like add. Like, you don't need any more of a chip on your shoulders for this franchise that has already had so many false starts. That. Why add any more to it? And then we've had some of you guys in the comments talking about the teaser, the footage that leaked. I don't know what to think about that stuff. I mean, I like that they're going with that space age kind of a retro futuristic look, but I still worry myself about like what the true potential of this movie is, because while I think the look of the film is interesting, I wonder if this is going to be a movie that they can reconcile with the MCU. Like, how it's a different universe, man. Like that's what I'm struggling to. So they're really still committing to this, multiverse idea, and I feel like the average audience is sort of like, can we get past the multiverse now? And so my question to you is this going to help or hurt the fact that this movie is going to exist in its own world and then somehow is meant to tie into, I don't know, maybe Secret Wars? Does that mean they show up in Avengers Doomsday? Like, how is that going to work?
I don't know. I have two theories. One is like they're going to immediately get Fantastic Four into this universe at the end of the movie, because I believe Galactus is in the trailer. So I think he might be the main villain, which is ridiculous, but
which makes sense. And they gave that surprise away the day before when they had the whole drone show, which set some kind of Guinness Book of World Records for drone shows. And they had the whole Galactus thing alongside Deadpool.
So that makes sense. So either it's gonna be by like through Galactus, they're gonna that's gonna like transport them into the mainline MCU, Earth 1999999. Not 616. Fuck you, Kevin Feige. It's not 616.
According to Kevin Feige, it is.
Well, to all people that aren't into that bullshit, it's Earth 1999999. But
you know what's hilarious? I think,
they're gonna do Secret Wars.
Like said pretty much the same.
Yeah, because Iman Vellani's fucking based. That's why. after
Yeah.
getting back surgery from carrying that fucking Captain Marvel sequel because she was the only good part of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was essentially that, or it's like they're gonna just do Secret Wars
Yeah.
and they're just gonna, bring like the X-Men from the Fox universe. They're gonna bring this Fantastic Four because nobody gives a fuck
Yeah.
about the Yoan Grufford version, and then they're gonna bring in like
Even
the
though they're
Marvel
probably gonna
heroes.
show up in Secret Wars anyway, like those other versions. But
And then like they'll probably fucking have like Tobey Maguire and then all that, and then they'll have
mhm,
Blade, and they're probably gonna
yeah,
fucking bring in like the shitty Howard the Duck, and then they're all
yeah,
gonna be in Secret Wars, and then they're probably gonna Crisis on Infinite Earths it, and then just combine them all into the same world, and then it's gonna be new and improved
yeah,
Marvel universe, and then they can continue on from there,
yeah,
and no one's gonna give a shit because everyone is superhero fatigued at this point.
yeah.
So, although speaking of Secret Wars, it was officially announced that
Well,
it's
can I
you
actually,
know
before we get to that,
okay, sorry, my
that,
bad.
because I know that's the next one thing we're gonna.
I'm
I
really
did.
excited to talk about this.
I know. We have to talk. Okay, we will. But like, I have a follow up question for you, right? And an observation too. They mentioned in this tweet that the movie Fantastic Four: First Steps production begins on Tuesday, but then they showed us this stuff. So I'm like, this doesn't count in production. I'm just saying, there's a little bit of a hypocrisy to that. I mean,
That's what I was thinking. Like,
they
what
clearly
is
have
this?
shot some stuff. And for what it's worth, honestly, as a fan of sci-fi, like I love watching For All Mankind, I love watching The Expanse. I've been watching like Battlestar Galactica, Stargate, Star Trek, Star Wars, you name
I'm
it.
open to
You know,
this.
like I like the look. I think
I do
they
too.
can. There is the potential for this movie to be probably one of the best Marvel movies that the MCU has ever seen is there. But it could also, and knowing the previous attempts at this franchise, go really downhill really fast. What I will also say is, remember when that image initially dropped of like that concept art with them? I like the shade of blue they're going with
I
because
love
it's
the
so
sky blue.
different. It's
It's
so
so
different,
unique. Like
and I love. It looks better to me
they're
than the other
really
versions that we have
trying
seen.
hard to
So
differentiate from the last
yeah,
version, which was Josh Trank was trying to go for like super dark, grounded, edgy. We were kind of in the wake of Nolan's
hmm
Batman. Everyone was trying to do dark and edgy. So he's like, let me do dark and edgy Fantastic Four. When it's like that's not the point of Fantastic. The whole
exactly.
idea of Fantastic Four is that they're cheesy pull page superheroes. Like that's kind of what made them work. That's like, say what you will about the Tim Story versions and even the fucking Roger Corman one from the
hmm
90s. Like the charm of it is that they are kind of cheesy. Are those movies good? Not really, but it's just they have a certain charm to them. And the reason that Fan Four Stick is so like hated now is because it's like it doesn't have the. I mean, yes, because the fucking movie was ripped out of Josh Tranks' hands and chopped
Right.
up into hell, and studio meddling. Josh Trank was being an asshole. Like there was a million different things wrong with
Right.
that movie. So I just think with that, I think they're really trying to bring in that charm back and what
Right.
made those characters good. And the thing is, I'm open to it. Like I've said this before that I've pretty much boycotted the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I not from like hatred. Well,
Mhm.
maybe a couple reasons because of hatred, but like mostly it's just like I don't really care anymore. Like it's just like they haven't gotten like anything to like get me to care. With the
Yeah.
exception of Spider-Man, because I love Spider-Man and like that's what got me into superheroes in the first place. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm open to that. And if they actually follow through with the ending of No Way Home, it could be good. So there's that. There was Guardians, which already came and went, and then the thing I was holding out for was Fantastic Four.
Right.
Now, I don't want to totally I don't want to totally write them off, but there's something later that I need to talk about, and I'm like, I want to be excited for this, but like the director and the writer don't have me really all that convinced. I like this footage. I like the actors, well, except for Moss Bachrach, he's an asshole. But like, I like the actors; they're all extremely talented.
God. Yeah.
And I want to be like have some sort like I have like a little bit like I'm like okay, you have a little bit of curiosity for me, but almost nothing about this production has me really all that excited. I want to be like the only thing that has me is the tone and 75% of the actors. So that's kind of it. But like I just like I'm so like I'm not even on the fence. I'm like away from the fence, more negative, but like still like there's something like I just want to see Fantastic Four done right at one point. Because when the best Fantastic Four movies are the shitty the shitty low budget one produced by Roger Corman from the 90s, and then The Incredibles, it's just a little like I like this, it's Marvel's first family. This is the thing that catapulted them back into popularity after World War II. So like this got Marvel back on track. They are Marvel's first family. That was like the whole thing with them. So like I'd like to see them done well. Like they like I feel like they kind of deserve that. And it is the fourth try. It is the fourth attempt.
Maybe yeah. Fourth time is the charm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe that's something. I don't know, but like I'm not
Yeah.
excited, but I'm like the tone and actors have me at least a tiny bit curious.
Yeah.
Which might not mean anything, but that's how I feel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, look, I for one, this sneak peek footage that we got, which looked like it was exclusive to Hall H, but it's obviously leaked online. It teases something interesting, and it could just be that was a lot of it was test footage, and that's what they showed. That they were just costume tests and stuff, just to kind of like have a sizzle, right? Like, and what we ultimately end up getting will be like it, but not exactly it. So let's see what comes of that. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is, of course, the big announcement of who's going to be directing the next two Avengers movies. There was a rumor from one of the Hollywood insiders last week, and not actually last week, it was a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about it in those Also Curious show recently, that yes, we're going to potentially be getting the Russo brothers back in the MCU game, and Kevin Feige and them have collaborated to be basically the most successful director producer duo outside of James Cameron and the late John Landau, because between the two Captain America movies that the Russo brothers directed and the two Avengers movies that they directed, they have grossed like $6 some odd billion. So as far as the Russo brothers and Kevin Feige go, at least financially and also from a critical standpoint, they've almost never missed. So I think
to me they missed, but that's me.
Okay, but you know what I mean, right? Like in terms of none of their movies has made less than $500 million, and 3 out of the 4 have made like well over $1 billion. The Captain America and of course the two Avengers movies. So I see from a studio level that they're making a safe play, and that also financially they've got a resume there that backs up that this collaboration in particular has always worked. Now, the Russo brothers, of course, are back officially now to direct both Avengers Doomsday, as we know, and Avengers Secret Wars. What are your thoughts? I know you were trying to get to that earlier, but like, go ahead. Tell me what you think about this idea.
I just like it's just Marvel trying so hard to get back to their golden age, and it's just comes off.
Is it that obvious? Is that what's happening?
Comes off as so desperate. Like it's just like, okay, nobody like phases 4 and 5. Nobody gave a fuck about. Our main villain got fucking arrested for beating a woman. So like, okay, what do we do now? Let's bring back the Russo brothers. Even though their last 2 or 3 non-MCU movies fucking sucked, and it shows that they're really not that good directors. But it's
when they're left to their own devices without Kevin Feige, they haven't really hit.
No, not at all. Like I still believe that Winter Soldier was a fluke because I have not liked any of their directorial efforts in the MCU outside that. I did not like Captain America: Civil War. I thought Infinity War was just explaining things the movie, and then Endgame, the last hour was fun, but it was like stupid and pointless because they were fighting a Thanos that didn't know who they are, so it was meaningless. And then on top of that, like there's no development there, so why do we care? Right. So you know, it was like all this shit, and it's just like whatever. So I have not liked anything they've done since Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier, I think they just managed to hit a stride, and then they just haven't reached that high since. Of course, I'm an outsider when it comes to that because everyone else is still sucking their dicks to this day. So what the fuck do I know? But
Well, I mean, hey, Netflix has given them a lot of money to launch that franchise. What was it? What was that
give
movie
money to
again?
fucking Zack Snyder, and look how that turned out. Like,
Yeah, well, you know,
the
I think,
only good director I feel like the only good directors I feel like that Netflix has at this point is like David Fincher and Mike Flanagan, and even then Flanagan left to go to Amazon, and David Fincher I think
it's
left to go to
yeah.
Apple. So
I mean, it's also there's something to be said about when you have Kate Blanchett with the budget, if you know what I mean. That's more likely than not a recipe for disaster because the best of us storytellers struggle to tell a good story when we are given everything we ever asked for. I think creativity thrives when you're limited by
yeah,
resources and you're forced to find creative solutions to your storytelling
exactly.
problems.
That's how
Let's say
Alfred Hitchcock fucking had
exactly,
a
like
career.
purposefully. I mean, you know, some of the best filmmakers in the world sort of like set boundaries for themselves so that they can, you know, have the ability to create within the bounds of those limitations. Christopher Nolan grounds his movies in, you know, real life, like science, so that, you know, when he's making a movie about a black hole, he's like, well, what can we do, what can we not do, where do we have some wiggle room, and that's what he does. And you look at other examples of that, like whether it's Denis Villeneuve and how he's approached sci-fi, like, you know, he's going for that more grounded view. Like there's a certain limits to what he's gonna try to portray, and it usually leads to good results, right? Like Robert Eggers is the one who made The Lighthouse, right? Am I
Yep.
right? And like what he went to, the limits that he put on himself with the locations, the lenses that they're restored, the classic vintage lenses, and the you know, just the four by the academy aspect ratio, you end up with something unique and different, you know, like you said, Clint Eastwood, he only does the amount of takes that he needs. He's like, I don't need more coverage, I need that shot, that shot, that shot. If you get it right on the first take, we're moving on. I mean, not only is that like a very producer friendly way to make a movie because it's a lot cheaper than doing like an extensive amount of coverage, but it's also another way to, you know, give yourself this playground to work in, and the limits of the playground force you to be creative. Whereas I think when a lot of these Netflix filmmakers, you get all the money in the world and all the freedom in the world, you end up with something where our diverse vices come through and you don't end
Yeah.
up with the story that you really want. And I think that's where the Russo brothers have struggled, outside of that, you know, Kevin Feige telling them, hey, I'm giving you a coloring book. You can only color between the lines. And so the Russo brothers work well because their background, they initially started out as like TV directors. And being a
Yeah.
TV director is very similar to working in the MCU as a movie director, because you have a producer and his writing room who's going to give you, you know, these specific stories, and they have a lot of the big sequences already previous, so you already know exactly what those big sequences are going to look like, and the director is going to come in like a TV director. They're just going to direct the actors, and the look of the movie is largely determined by the people above them. And so the Russo brothers did that really, really well with both of the Avengers movies, and even to the, you know, a great degree, the two Captain America films. So do you think that now means that here Kevin Feige is just exerting a lot more of his control back on the franchise, and, you know,
Probably.
post Bob Chapek era, and now he's just like, okay, I'm gonna be more
Even
hands-on. There's fewer projects.
it's so funny because Bob Chapek is the one that greenlit Deadpool and Wolverine, which is more than likely going to get them over $1 billion fucking dollars. So it's like the biggest moneymaker that they are going to get in the last like 2 or 3 years was not had nothing to do with Iger or Feige. So that, which is hilarious to me. But
Well, I mean, Feige, clearly Kevin Feige is still. You can't say he got nothing to do with Kevin Feige, but anyway.
But even then,
Point
like,
is,
yeah,
it's the same at a time where the MCU is struggling for an identity or for consistency, because, you know, there's, I think, let me see where I've seen so many. Okay, we're gonna get into this stuff later. I've seen so many reactions on social media where they're like, love the MCU, hate the MCU, love the MCU, hate the MCU. It's like every project we're alternating, and I think so. They're trying to make a safe bet here that with the Russo brothers, they'll have some level of consistency, which I appreciate. So, but that said, the biggest news of the night is or was the announcement of course Robert Downey Jr. coming out and basically being announced as returning, but not as Tony Stark, but as Doctor Doom. I know there's okay. So one of you guys pointed out in the chat that there is
I can
precedence.
smell the desperation from here. Oh, if we thought the Russo brothers coming back was desperate, this is just the king of desperation, because it just goes to show that Marvel can't survive without their golden goose. Because it's like, bro, you just won an Oscar for arguably the best movie that has come out this fucking century, and yet you're going back to Marvel. What? Do you need another boat? Do you need to like pay off some debts to like a
I
loan
do wonder
shark
how much he's
before he
getting paid
caps your knees
back.
or something?
Yeah.
Because, bro,
Yeah.
this is the embodiment of corporate pathetic bullshit. Like, it really is. Because, as I mentioned before, yeah, I'm blaming Marvel because they're the ones who hired him. But guess what? RDJ agreed to it. He agreed to come back. It's like, you finally, like, after flop after flop after flop after flop of non-Marvel movies, RDJ finally showed everyone that he's like, you know what? No, I am a terrific actor. I can be without Marvel. And you know what? He was arguably the best part of Oppenheimer. Like, I don't know about anybody else. He stole that movie. Like, Cillian Murphy was excellent. Emily Blunt was excellent. Josh Hartnett, you know, all these actors.
Dude,
like
the moment
Damon,
you find out the turn of him being like, oh shit, he's the bad guy, is the one moment where I'm like in an IMAX theater.
Oh,
universally, the whole crowd is like, oh shit. Like, you know, like they're getting ready to throw tomatoes at the screen moment. I've never seen a turn with just universally everybody in the crowd was like, oh no, you didn't. Like that was
extraordinary.
A convincing actor to pull that off. Like, it's rare that I've seen
it showed. It's like, because I feel kind of bad because I don't want to shit on superhero movies. I do love them, and I do love superheroes and comics and all that. A lot of them do take a lot of like effort and acting ability. They all do. But it's sometimes when you're playing the same character for so long and you're kind of stuck in that sort of sameness for, you know, like 15 years. When I was I felt kind of bad for thinking this because I don't want to, don't want to hate superhero movies. I don't want to hate comic book movies. But when watching Oppenheimer and watching Robert Downey Jr. be so good, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot. He can fucking act. Whoa. And it's just like I did feel a little bad, but like at the same time, it's just like, yeah, he's a tremendous fucking actor. And to see him do this is just I didn't want to believe it. My heart sunk. Like I have never been so completely and utterly disappointed in somebody I don't know personally for an action they do ever. I don't think. Like, this is just so insulting to people that wanted to see him do better. I wanted you to be better. Like, I'm quoting it back to you. I wanted you to be fucking better. Why are you doing this? This is fucking ridiculous. You finally got that Oscar in hand. You're like, okay, I'm gonna kowtow to fucking Marvel and Kevin Feige because I need a new boat. That's my joke. You need a new boat.
Well,
because it's like it's just like it's like whether he's Victor Von Doom, whether he's evil Tony Stark, I don't fucking give a flying fuck. I really don't, because it just goes to show how creatively bankrupt Marvel truly is. How Robert Downey Jr. really doesn't care about like filmmaking as an art form or filmmaking in general if he's going back to this shit. It goes to show how Feige doesn't care, and it's just morally reprehensible, creatively bankrupt, and it just goes to show that they just that they just don't care. They're like, well, we're gonna just do everything we can to try and make as much fucking money as possible because we can't survive without Robert Downey Jr. So we're bringing him back as fucking Doctor Doom, and we're just gonna like go the course because we stopped caring. And the thing that is so like horrible about it is the fact that people are fucking excited for this shit. Like I hate to like I quote this a lot, but it really is true. Red Letter Media was on the money. Consume product, wait for next product. That is essentially what Marvel is at this point. It's just consuming product. Like it's really, and then you have all the fucking shills decked out in their bullshit, being like, oh yeah, Robert Downey Jr. It's like, and I'm not talking about normal fans. I've seen a lot of normal fans. I'm talking about the super extremists that'll fucking like sacrifice their firstborn child for Kevin Feige. I'm talking about those insane people. That's who's excited for this shit. And it's just, I hate it. I fucking hate it so fucking much. And I'm glad I fucking barely watch anything from this fucking franchise anymore because this is just, like, if I was still watching this shit, this would be like, I'm out at this. Luckily, Thor Love and Thunder made the decision a lot easier. But like, you know.
I will say that there's a lot of meta humor online, and I think the Watcher kind of caught on to it for me. The idea that the MCU needs a soft reboot. Secret Wars probably will be that soft reboot. I think now you can start to really see increasingly so the fact that the Fantastic Four come from a different reality. We have that post-credit sequence from the Marvels where you have, you know, what's Kelsey Grammer's Beast. So a version of the X-Men that we're familiar with in a different reality where Monica Rambeau ends up. We, of course, have had everything that's gone down in the Deadpool and Wolverine. And now you have RDJ coming back to play, you know, Doctor Doom, which is clearly very aptly, if you were to like quote The Dark Knight, you know, and Harvey Dent, as he once famously said, you either die a hero,
we trust him,
or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. I think that's very much what's happening here, because it also seems like to me he's not coming back to play Victor Von Doom. It wouldn't make any sense from a storytelling standpoint that all of a sudden Pepper Potts runs into him and he's like, wait, you know, Tony Stark was probably the most well-known person in.
Well, he's probably going to be on the
you know
Fantastic Four Earth. He's
so
he's either going to be evil Tony Stark on the Fantastic Four Earth, or just Victor Von Doom on. I'm telling you, it's a multiverse thing. It's going to be on that Fantastic Four Earth, because no way
like
would they introduce Victor Von Doom on the MCU Earth. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Because exactly, and then I think a lot of people have made this comparison that in recent years in Marvel Comics they've had this character called the Maker, which we find out is an evil version of Reed Richards, who kind of went down a different path than obviously the version of Reed Richards we're more familiar with, and ends up becoming like villainous. You know, like if Tony Stark,
Reed Richards is
end up in that
like
cave,
straddling that line of villain.
But you know what I mean? Like Tony Stark at the beginning of the Iron Man movie could have easily, you know, his company Stark Industries made weapons of mass destruction essentially, and if it wasn't for his experience in the cave and this near death experience and how he changes as a result of that, he could have gone down a different path, because he was being groomed by Obadiah Stane ultimately to, you know, kind of follow in his footsteps and his way of doing things. And at the beginning of the movie, Tony Stark is not very likable. I mean, and by the end of the movie, he's still only barely likable. It's only really until you get to, I think Tony Stark truly got grounded as a character once he started to, like, you know, I think in the third Iron Man movie, but also especially once he starts to become like this mentor to Peter Parker, because until then, I think there were still like these rough edges to the character, where I think now he's universally beloved, of course. But yeah, I can't see how this is going. There's no way this is not a multiverse thing. And obviously, for a lot of us who are wondering when this multiverse arc is going to end, we now know it's only going to get ratcheted up until we get to Secret Wars, which is where you're going to collapse all of this. And yeah, Caleb, I mean, it does excite me to see that while Marvel is going bigger with the multiverse, the DCU is going to start with something that's much more contained,
Yeah.
and simplified, like a simpler version of a cinematic universe. The kind
Mhm.
of times we did not need to have first steps added on to the end of a title of a Fantastic Four movie, where you can just call it Superman. Like, why not just call it Superman? Let's just keep
Yeah.
it simple, because ultimately, if you really think about it, Robert Downey Jr. playing Doctor Doom is quite frankly something very similar to what he did in Tropic Thunder, because he's a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. Like, that's kind of what it is. I think that's the
Pretty
best way I
much.
could sum it up.
Like, that's perfect.
That was my first reaction. I'm like, wait, there's a perfect Tropic Thunder meme we can throw into this. I may have had an assistant finding the meme, but like, it's very much, yeah. He's a dude, Robert Downey Jr. playing another dude, which whether it's Victor Von Doom or another version of the character, disguised as another dude. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Could
What
he
I
do
will
it?
say,
Absolutely, he's great, but like
yeah,
it's just so fucking
yeah,
stupid. Like I cannot
yeah.
words cannot put like I can't describe how much I hate this and how stupid it is.
Well, look, at the end of the
Let's get into
day,
DC shit now because I need
yeah,
to
I
get
know,
off
I know.
this.
I know. Well, I was just gonna summarize by saying, for one, I still land more on the excited side of let's see where this goes, but I'm cautiously optimistic because Marvel in recent years has been very up and down. And while there was a time, I think there was only a brief few years period, if I remember correctly, where Marvel was just like, I think from 2018 to 2014 to 2019, bang, 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 they could not miss. But before then, they had hits and misses, and since then, they've had hits and misses. And I don't quite trust them to get every element of this right. But there is certainly a lot more storytelling potential to Avengers Doomsday than there was to Avengers the Kang Dynasty, especially when Kang had already been defeated by Ant-Man, not to mention Loki and everybody else that he, clearly went up against and lost. So, and even if it wasn't for Jonathan Major's situation, that how things worked out with his legal troubles, let's say, I still think that it would have been very difficult to kind of pull that off versus what we're going to see here now with Doomsday. It's more interesting. I just think, like, and guys, let us know in the comments what you think about that. If you haven't already, hit the like button. You guys are watching and you're not hitting the like button, please do hit the like button and smash the like button. Batarang that like button. We're gonna get into the DCU stuff now. So hit the subscribe, of course. That always helps us out. That way you know when we go live. Hit the notification bell so you know exactly when we go live. So now, John, let's go to the blue team, right? We were on the red team for a little bit talking about all the stuff that was going down. But now let's talk about, what's going down in the world of DC, because James Gunn has been busy filming this little known movie that we're colloquially calling Superman, quite simply Superman. And Superman is a movie that is going to be releasing next July. So you'd imagine, kind of like Fantastic Four, which is releasing only 2 weeks after Superman, that they would have a big panel at Comic-Con, but they decided not to really do a big DCU panel this year because James Gunn is nonstop shooting. Not only has he been working on Superman, but he's also working on freaking Peacemaker season 2.
And
I don't know
Creature
when
Commandos.
he sleeps at night. And Creature Commandos. I mean, like, it's I don't the dude is nothing if not devoted. But the DC did have a few things that they announced this weekend, and James Gunn, even though he didn't personally make it to Comic-Con, he did have like this appearance where he sort of showed up on video, and he announced something very significant, that we're going back to a very classic look of the DC Studios logo, and I, for one, am very excited to see this look, because this look of the DC Studios we really have not seen in the world of film, because going back to even the Nolan days of the Dark Knight trilogy, whenever we got the DC logo, it was like a different version, like this peeling, like it was a version that sort of came after this one from the 90s, and
the
before the
2000s
current iteration.
And then you had the 2010s one, and now we have the current one. But yeah, I like the 2000s ones. I hate the 2010 ones. It looked so fucking stupid. It was 2012. It was like right around the time they rebranded with New 52, and it was hair. The peeling, I hate that one. It's so ugly, and it just looks like shit. The bullet
I'm really
logo,
glad that
the bullet logo is the best. Like, I like the Bullet logo and the one that came after this. Those are easily the best DC logos.
Yeah.
Without
I think the
without
most
a doubt.
recent one was pretty good. By the way, Shamir Rames, thank you for the comment. We do appreciate the criticism. Doom was
Yeah.
the
If you don't
Doom.
like it,
That was
stop
the only
fucking
way he
watching.
was
Get
going
the
to come
fuck
back.
out of here. Go jerk off to Robert Downey Jr.
You're
How about
welcome.
that?
You're
All right.
welcome. You're welcome to stick around. Not on John's account, but you're welcome to stick around. It's you know, but hey, getting back to the logo, the DC Studios logo. There's a classic nature to this. It's also
Mhm.
feels like we're returning to not just the olden times, but it's also
Yeah.
very quintessential. It's kind of
I
like, to
mean,
me, when I look at a
Doctor Who did
football
the same
team's
thing.
logo. Which one?
Yeah, Doctor Who is using the old 70s logo from the fourth Doctor era. I know that's just to be like
Oh
nostalgia bait,
yeah,
but
you're
like,
right.
yeah, they are using that old school logo, and I mean, I feel like because it's like it might as well go back to the ones that worked because this is a great this was around for almost like 40 years.
Mhm.
And that this was like the go-to logo, the best logo that we've gotten. So, and James Gunn was like, you know what? It was the best. Don't change perfection. Let's go with it. So that's what he went with. And I like to see it. And I know a friend of mine who loves this logo is probably really happy right now. But yeah, I actually don't mind this current logo because it reminds me of like the ones that came right before this one, like early 70s, late 60s, early
Yeah.
70s. So like it has like it's a modernized but old school style. So I like the current one, the DC with the circle around it. That one's good. I like that one. But I mean, this is such a great logo. Like I know it's so simple, but it's a nice logo. It's
Yeah.
nice. I love to see
It
it.
feels like something that you look at and you're like, it has a sense of optimism to it, and it has a personality to it that a lot of logos today in the world of corporate,
Mhm.
like, low marketing, you don't get. This is where I was trying to get to earlier, the idea that football team logos, when I say football, I mean soccer, like European soccer team logos, institutions that have been around for 200 years in some instances, right? Their logos have they have this sense of history and prestige to them. They've existed for a very long time. Thanks for that, Fiona, by the way. I think it's a good point made there. But like Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal. Arsenal maybe not the best example, but like, there's other examples of logos where you're not necessarily going out there and updating it to look like something that can be just one color, and that's the simplified design. And I think this DC Studio logos kind of brings that, not just nostalgia but personality back, where I think the Marvel logo obviously is quintessentially iconic. I think they've had their look down for years. But I think with the DC Studios logo, I think when you compare that to the most recent iteration, and certainly to the one that came before it, this feels like it has more character and personality to it. So I really enjoy that. So yeah, I personally love it. I think the Watcher, you mentioned that you're really intrigued by it, and you like that it's going to be something that's going to catch on. I think it's classic. I love it. There's quite the conversation going on in the chat.
Yeah.
Geek Ledger hated the two logos from 2005 to 2024. Yeah, I think the latest logo that they had was okay. Like, it was good. Like, I would say, like, if they stuck with it, I
I
would
like
have.
the latest logo. It's not too bad. Like
That's what our
it's
logo
it,
is based on.
it was
DCU
way
Daily.
better
Like,
than the peeling logo. The fucking
the peeling
peeling
logo,
logo
right?
I
That
hated.
was not good.
That was
Did
so
not like that.
ugly.
I really did not
But
like
I
that.
like this logo. I like the one after it. I don't know what it's, but it's like has like a swoop around it, and
Right.
it looked very superhero stuff, like a very
Mhm.
superhero logo, and I liked that a lot. That was around for I think some of the 2000s, and then I think it was like 2005 to 2012 as we had that logo, and then we had the peeling logo, and then we have the current one.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the thing is, I didn't mind the movie logo. That was like one of the best parts of the DCU movies was that introduction of that whole sequence with like the Justice League members, and then you see all the characters,
Yeah.
and then it zooms out to the DC. I actually liked that opening; like it was
It
pretty
was
cool.
good. It
So,
was good.
but this it seems like old school stuff. Like
Yeah.
that. I feel like that's what James Gunn is doing. It's
Yeah.
just like it. I can kind of understand that. Like it's a little because I feel like that's what I actually have like there's like a I have like old comics on my wall, so I see like all
Yeah,
different types of logos.
yeah.
But I could see that is because that's what the logo was for like the 60s and 70s. It was just DC with like a circle around it and then white in the background. So it was essentially the modern one was like modernizing that old school logo. But again, it was more modern than retro. So like I understand like that not liking that, which is fine. But yeah, I just think that this was a good because that's what I feel like just James Gunn is doing is like he's bringing back a lot of old school styles and themes. So
Mhm.
bringing back that old school logo for this brave new world of the DC
Mhm.
universe, I just feel like that makes sense, you know,
Yeah,
because it's like we're like he has said many times he's like those old school values like
right.
are being brought
Yeah,
back
I mean,
into the
the
Superman
the best thing about that Superman
stuff.
synopsis was when they did the whole chapter 1 Gods and Monsters
Mhm.
reveal was that he described it as Superman Clark Kent is he believes in kindness in a world where kindness is thought of as like, old school, like as dated or something. I think it was I'm paraphrasing it, but that those two sentences there, I was like, that is Superman, right? Like that is so quintessentially Superman. And I think it's that fundamental nature of like what comic books have always tried to be, and just like a more optimistic upwards and up in a way kind of a feel to the DC universe. I love that in every which way the logo only further reinforces it. So I do like I really really appreciate that. Oh wow, he actually congratulated Deadpool and Wolverine, which is perfect.
Yeah.
Hey, we a rising tide raises all ships. That's what we like to. This is why we were talking about Marvel, and now we're talking about DC. Um, but yeah, guys, let us know what you think about the. Um, Thanks for sending me. John just sent me this thing about how Harrison Ford is still being Harrison Ford despite the fact that he's playing Red Hulk. He's like, what's your secret to mocapping for Red Hulk? And what's the secret to getting it right? He's like, not caring. Like he probably said it with like the
Yeah,
most deadpan
I
way
mean, it was so funny when he was like hulking out on stage. I'm like, that's the most energy and emotion I've
Mhm.
seen from Harrison Ford in the
Yeah,
past
yeah.
30 years.
I'm
So
so
like
surprised. The dude does not care about anything, and he was like
he
doing a
gives
whole
no
impression
fucks.
of. I was like, okay, it's
But anyway,
yeah. By the way, this shirt was on sale at Comic Con, and I'm pretty sure it sold out like in minutes. It was gone. It was like just
yeah,
so,
which is
and
glad
I
because it
can't wait to get
shows
my hands
a
on
lot of
one.
people are excited, which I
Yeah,
love to see. Like people are actually still excited to, you know,
yeah.
see DC and what they're doing because I know there's a lot of haters of like the DC, and I do for an extent I do understand with how people were so scorned by the DCEU and what Zack Snyder did, and that's fair. But it's like I feel like there's something here, whether it's good or bad, I don't know, but I'm like intrigued with this. I want to be excited. Like it's actually making me excited again. So I'm like, all
Hmm.
right, you know what? Let's go.
Yeah.
Or as Deadpool and Wolverine would say, let's fucking go.
Yes, LFG people. By the way, Watcher, I actually who just said that comment? Is that yeah? Did you see that, John? Like, did they actually have a
I
teaser
didn't
trailer? Because I know in the
I didn't
Future
see the
Commandos
footage,
trailer,
but like I don't know if there was like
like
footage or
you're gonna
anything.
have to get a hold of this because this is obviously not public knowledge. Like, this might have really been an exclusive to SDCC. Um, but yeah, I mean, hey, it's looking good. The DCU is starting to shape up, and it's hopefully going to lead to a situation where both Marvel and DC are eating well. Now, speaking of eating well, and speaking of stuff that they did drop at Comic Con this weekend, I know that James Gunn wasn't there. Obviously, he sent us a video and releasing the new DC Studios logo publicly. What we did get though is the trailer for the first project in the new DCU. So, John, I want to hear about your thoughts on what this
Yeah.
Creature Commando show looks like. One of three projects that the first three projects, the first animated project, it seems like the first TV series, and certainly the first
Mhm.
movie in the DCU are all
That new
written
logo.
by James Gunn, and he's directed at least some part of everything, including of course all of Superman. So now we're
Mhm.
getting our first look at. If we've been looking for like when is it coming out? What is it going to look like?
Mm,
Here it is. What did you think about the trailer at Comic Con that we got for Creature Commandos? And is this a show
yeah.
that now you're even more excited about, or did it make you a little more anxious or maybe cautious? Or What was your
I would
reaction?
say it's kind of the same. Like the excitement level went up, but then it kind of went back down again because essentially this is just Suicide Squad. This is just Suicide Squad with monsters. It's like, all right, that's
Yeah.
cool. Like I'm open to that, but it's just like I wish it was just a little bit more than
Mhm.
that. Because I feel like Creature Commandos could have been its like own thing. It could have been its own like sort of like idea, but it's just like, okay, they're going back to Suicide Squad. It's Rick Flag Sr. and it's with monsters. Which like, okay, cool. Like that's fine. But these are all the people that are gonna be in it.
I
And
mean, are they gonna animate Steve G? And then of course David Harbour hopping across 2 universes at the same time?
yeah,
So,
yeah, he's playing Frankenstein. But yeah,
yeah.
um,
Alan Tudyk
and then you have like
Tudyk?
Viola Davis coming back as Amanda
Yeah.
Waller, and then it just it's like okay, those that part is like a little iffy for me, but like even then, for the most part, the animation looks great. I like going. Hopefully, they lean into more of the horror aspects, and I do like what I'm seeing. I just wish it like had it more of its own identity than just it's just Suicide Squad again, But I'm excited for it. Like it looks fun. It looks great. I like many of the actors. Like I like David Harbour. I like Frank Grillo. Love Alan Tudyk. I finally just started watching Resident Alien. So and that show is fucking great. So I just I just think well, I mean, the thing is they literally call it Task Force M. It's not Task Force X. It's Task Force
Right.
M. Like,
That's a
and you're
little bit,
bringing, and it's also you have Rick Flag, you have Amanda Waller, and you have characters that have things implanted in their necks so that they don't like fuck off. It's Suicide Squad with monsters like that. I mean, I'm happy that you can't see that and are super excited for it, but that's just what I see. Like, it's there. It's clearly there, but I do like how they
yeah.
do reference the fact that like, oh, Suicide Squad, I thought they fucking got rid of that shit. And Amanda Waller's like, well, these people don't have rights, so I'm using them instead. So yeah, and then you have Weasel coming back, although I don't know if it's coming back, but because it's different universes, but yes, okay, I did see this where it was like the Golden Age Superman, and then
Kind of the movement
yes,
to it, yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be the same for everything. It
That
might depend on the movie.
Yeah, I like the modularity of that. You can put whatever you want in that circle for the different kind of
Yeah.
projects. Although, like again, you're getting that's the Fleischman Superman, right? That's
No,
the
that's just
version.
Golden Age.
That's
That
just
was just
Golden Age Superman. Okay,
yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, you guys pointed out in the chat that this is, obviously something that was released during. I think Jim Lee was on this panel. That's the Jim Lee had his own panel,
Ew.
and this is where they released it. It's great. I like it, but like you said, is it? I mean, do you want to base that logo on just one character? Obviously, the Marvel logo, you see all the various, and they keep updating, the footage and the images that you see in the Marvel Studios one. I'd imagine as we move forward, you're going to see that, and obviously DC with their previous one for the DCEU, they had like all of their key characters. I would be
I don't
interested in
know. I
seeing how.
kind of like it because it shows that the importance of Superman in the DC
Exactly.
mythos. So I wouldn't mind if that's just like the same one because it's easy. It's
Yeah.
just like boom, you see him breaking the chains,
Yeah.
and then it switches back. And it's simple, nice, simple, easy, perfect. But it would be cool if they did change it to various things like, oh, if we get like a Swamp Thing one, if we get a Batman one, if we get a Supergirl one, and it's
Yeah.
like that like old cell style animation that is referencing the older comics. I think that would be really cool. I would
Yeah.
like to see that because I feel like that's an not easy thing to do, but like I understand like maybe part 2 it's reliant on a lot of the stuff from part 1 that might spoil it. So I feel like they might not do that. I would love to see it because again, I want to see what other projects they have. However, I can see them not doing the part 2 of chapter 1 because there might be like, oh, we're getting a
part
sequel.
1 is still got like 5 years to go. Like the amount of
Yeah.
projects they've already it's
So I
I
feel
don't
like
even
they're
know if
not going
that
to
was
introduce
something
that
that we
just
want
yet.
to take literally. Like that was probably, they called it at that time, the internal vocabulary around what they're referring to has probably changed since. It's like the phases in the MCU. Does it actually matter what phase we are in? Probably not. It's more of just a system of organization, and then clearly things are fluid. Like James can keep saying, we're not taking anything into production until it is ready to be produced. Like, so for that purpose, I mean, for all we know, we might already have, like, Teen Titans might be technically phase 2, like chapter 1 part 2. It's like that kind of stuff is like semantics at the end of the day. I think what we
Yes.
should hear more about is like what people actually like and what they actually put out,
Yeah.
as in DC Studios. But yeah, I mean, next year I imagine we will get more concrete dates for more projects that we didn't get this year. We will probably get a proper presentation, unlike the one where this year it was sort of scattered with multiple different panels. But yeah, I mean, and by the way, yeah, the Watcher, the animation style for this, I really love that. I really love that
Yeah.
it stands out. It's its own thing, and I would love to also see what the Elseworlds logo looks like. I hope that we get. I mean, we haven't really seen it too much with even the Joker Folie Do marketing, but I would love maybe when the movie comes
What
out.
could be a
You know,
cool, it could be a really cool thing. So we have
Yeah.
Superman or whatever. We have him breaking the chains. It flips to DC Studios, but then
Mm-hmm.
for Elseworlds, it flips back and it says DC Elseworlds. That could
I
be
like
cool.
it. That
Like
would be
you have the initial
yeah,
one, you have that, and then you flip it again, and you
yeah,
have DC Elseworlds. Although
yeah.
technically there is no gold. Again, I'm being a fucking nerd. I apologize, Geek Ledger. You're getting the nerdy side of me. There is no Golden Age Justice League because the Justice League did not exist in the Golden Age. It was the Justice Society.
It was the
So I
Justice
think you mean
Society
the
of America.
Silver Age Justice
Yeah,
League
yeah.
because it was introduced in Brave and the Bold number 1828. Had an 8 in there. And they fought Starro. And yeah, so there was technically no Golden Age Justice League. I'm sorry. I don't mean to call you out. I don't mean to sound like an asshole, but like there was technically not a Golden Age. But they do it. But I would love to see Justice Society. I want to see more. Like Stargirl was great. They were easily the best parts of Black Adam. So I would love to see more Justice Society stuff. So whether it's, Infinity Inc., like the second phase of Justice Society that's more modernized, or even see a period piece, that would be fucking
Right.
awesome. So Justice Society, yes. I know that's technically not what you were saying, but yeah, that. Sandman, Hourman, the Al Pratt Atom, the Alan Scott Green Lantern. You can even go for like old school Wonder Woman, old school Batman, old school, even though they weren't part of Justice Society, old school Superman. And then who else? You had Johnny Thunder. You had who else? You could do Red Tornado, Ma Hunkel. Good times.
They had Red Tornado in the Justice League animated series, the Unlimited Justice League Unlimited. They had him in there. So
I'm not talking about the android. I'm talking about Ma Hunkel,
oh,
the fat chick who put a
okay,
pot on her
yeah.
head and fought crime. That's the Red Tornado I'm talking about. who was also the cafeteria lunch lady for the Justice Society, but she also fought crime. It was fucking great. So yes, you have all that, Sandman, Hourman, all that. That could be interesting. Like, I would love to see like a very Alan Scott played by Clint Eastwood. He's already decrepit as fuck, so you could boom, throw him in there, and then you get like flashbacks. That could be fun. But yeah, I'm excited for Creature Commandos. I want to be more excited, but like, I do like the idea of Suicide Squad, but I just wish Creature Commandos was like still like its own thing rather than just feeling like Suicide Squad again. But I like the actors, and I'm curious with how this will introduce everything. So, and the animation's great, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting. I'd appreciate the quality of the production value you're getting. You're clearly getting something that's worth the banner of it's an HBO original or it's a Max, or it's going to be a streaming show. This is clearly not something that's being done on like a small budget. So I really do appreciate that. Now, John, we do have to get onto the television side of things for a little bit. There were, I think, like 4 or 5 different panels at this year's Comic-Con for DC. And so, of course, they had Creature Commandos, which was the closest thing to like, that's the DCU announcement. But we also have Superman and Lois over on the CW. There's a new trailer that came out for this, and it's a trailer that sort of gave us more of an extended inside look at the show, whereas what we had already gotten a few days before, we haven't talked about that on the show, so we can dive into that as well. We got a proper trailer a few days ago, which was about a minute and a half or so, looking ahead to this new season. Clearly, they're pulling at on your heartstrings with the idea that Superman has died supposedly, and
they're
really not
definitely
even trying
doing
to hide
Death and
it.
Return of Superman, which
Exactly.
I don't
they're not even
mind.
trying to hide it at this point.
I
But
don't mind it, like, because
yeah,
I feel like, again, like I know I shit on Zack Snyder a lot, but even hardcore fans of him have even stated BVS the biggest problem is killing Superman off after one movie. Like, he gets one movie
it
and then
was
he
too
dies in the
soon,
next
I
one.
think.
It was
I
way
mean,
too soon. But
I
here
still
it
was
works.
okay with it.
Here
but
it works.
yeah,
We got
okay.
3 seasons of Superman. We got this Superman and he's also a veteran, but he also got us to care about this Superman, his mythos, his lore, and so when he dies, we actually give a shit. We actually care. This is essentially BVS but done right. Like, because we had, although it was Bizarro, not General Zod, a Kryptonian being used and becoming Doomsday by Lex Luthor. Right. And so, yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I think David Dastmalchian would definitely come back. So yeah, it's essentially BVS but done right. Like, and I still enjoy BVS. It's not a great movie, but like, I enjoy parts of it. But I feel like this is just like, okay, guys, let's do this shit. Let's go back to let's do this one more time. And so I'm excited for it. I'm curious with how they're going to do it, especially with all like the casting cuts. They don't have as many episodes, so I hope, I feel like the first half is going to be like death, and then the next few are going to be like return, and then like in the last, I wouldn't mind seeing Superman dead for most of it. Like, I know that's like taboo, but like I know he has the name of it, his fucking name on the title of the show, but like it would be really awesome how it's like we're getting this. And especially okay, so something I wanted to nerd out about this, because I love this, and it's really doubling down on what I pretty much confirmed back in season 2, how essentially we have Jordan being the super and then John being the man. I fucking love that. So Jordan gets the superpowers, but he doesn't have the maturity or the emotional, like he doesn't have the emotional maturity or the mental maturity or anything like that to really deal with these powers.
If you want
the mental fortitude. So, to really deal with these powers properly. And then but he got those powers, and then meanwhile John, he's, there was a lot of stuff in the second season, like his girlfriend like being forced to be a drug dealer because she was
it was like CW drama though. Like,
it was CW drama, but the thing is, the way they did it was still good though, because it's like it showcased John as like and it subverted expectations. It was like Jordan, he was like the quiet one, so he's going to be the cute, humble one. And then John's the jock. He's going to be the douchebag kind of frat guy. Yeah. But no, it's the total opposite. Like Jordan in the trailer, not necessarily the sneak peek, but in the trailer, he's like going in, like, even though like his family's grieving right now, he's going in, he's ready to fucking murder Lex Luthor. He is like, he's going gung ho. And then meanwhile, John is like, I lost my dad. Can you can you fucking breathe for 2 seconds, asshole? Like, Jesus Christ. So I like that about John, how he's like more the what we love about Superman is the kindness, the humbleness, the character, the personality that we love to see. Like, and like, just try again. I'm just a guy trying to do the right thing. That is John. That is his character. He's just the guy trying to do the right thing. Now, is everything going to be the right decision? No, he's a teenager. He's going to make stupid mistakes. But you know what? He learns and he's trying to be better, but he's still like trying to help, and he's trying to be good, and he's just trying to be the best he can be. and then Jordan's just being a fucking little shit, and he's just like, I'm gonna kill Lex Luthor, and it's like, can you stop? We literally just had the funeral 2 days ago. Can you stop? And then yeah, that's essentially what it is, and I love that, and and fucking Michael Cudlitz as Lex Luthor is just so fucking
it's so
fantastic.
different. And I don't mind it. Like, I don't mind
No,
it.
it's great, and I like how
It's
they make him bald until he went to prison. So we got like hair, we got like post-crisis Lex Luthor who has still had hair for most of like when he fought Superman. So I love that. I don't mind the beard. I know that's like kind of the new thing with Lex Luthor. People have joked that he either looks like a twink or he has a beard. One of the two, and that's the aesthetic of Lex Luthor. You either have John Cryer and Michael or you have Jesse Eisenberg and the guy on My Adventures with Superman. Those are the two Lex aesthetics right now. But I'm so excited for Superman and Lois. It looks so good, and the sneak peek is really cool. Like, I didn't want to include so many images. If you want to see, I would recommend seeing it for yourself. It's about 3 minutes. It's a fight between. It's continuing from season 3. Spoilers, but
it's like a whole sequence, right?
Yeah, it's a whole. It's
but it's like
there's only so much with a TV budget, but it still looks good. Right. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, and just to differentiate, we got like a minute, like a 90-second trailer a few days ago, and then just this weekend we got like this 3-minute sneak peek, which is online. You can go check it out for yourself, and it gives you, a bit of a something to wet your whistle, as John, you like to call it. And if you're really excited for the show and you just can't wait, then this will give you an idea. We have a release date for this now, right? Like, when is this show releasing? I believe we know it's sometime this fall. I'm excited to see where the show goes.
October 17th, I believe it is. That's when.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, so it's not that far away. I mean, it's gonna be here before you know it. Like, it's going to be releasing around the holiday season, right? You're gonna overlap with Halloween, with Thanksgiving, and even with the Christmas time. So, and DC's got a bunch of other stuff running, so we won't be short for DC content at that time. I'm excited to see what this final season does for the character. It's a very beloved show. It's the last DC property, DC show on the CW network in the US. Of course, if you are watching internationally, you might be seeing it on a streaming service. But let us know what you thought about the trailer. Are you more excited for Superman and Lois now than you were before? Is the final season is gonna be a send-off? And they did have a panel where the cast of the show, I think, spoke to multiple outlets, including like the Hollywood Reporters, the one that I saw, and they were talking about how they're in essence handing the torch off to David Cornsweet Superman. So yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see how all that plays out. Speaking, since we're on the topic of Superman and David Cornsweet Superman, I today saw a story from James Gunn on Instagram. So let's take a quick look at this. He posted about how that's a wrap on the Engineer. Maria Gabriela de Faria there, she's on the left side of that image. And then to the right of her, you've got, I believe, her stunt double. And of course, they both got, these special, I don't know which department that is from. It clearly says it's some department on the movie. Maybe the art department or the camera department gave them a shirt with the Superman logo in black and white. Yeah, and so it looks like they're now done filming. We know that recently we had another post from James Gunn last week mentioning that Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor was wrapped, so he was done filming. And now we know that, of course, Maria Gabriela de Faria playing the Engineer has also wrapped, and so it's starting to feel like this movie is almost done filming with production. They still got work to do, but it looks like with some of these actors who are going to have roles, perhaps not starring roles, but they're going to have significant roles in the movie, they're starting to finish up their shots. And James Gunn did respond to some comments recently, especially with the Lex Luthor post last week, that they're still continuing to film. So this movie's not done filming. So if you are wondering what's going on with Superman the movie, we will continue to follow it and cover it as they continue to film. But it looks like they're starting to slowly wrap out some of the less significant players. I wouldn't be surprised if we soon hear like, oh yeah, Nathan Fillion is done filming, Isabella Merced is done filming, Eddie Kategi is done filming, and maybe the last person to finish filming will be David Cornsweet himself, Superman. But what do you think about this, John? And what are your reactions to how much progress they have made with this movie? We are now less than a year away from Superman coming out. So the fact that you have on one end Fantastic Four, where official production begins on Tuesday for a release less than a year from now. On the other hand, you have Superman, which is basically starting to finish all of its principal photography, and is
Yeah.
coming out like only a couple of weeks before Fantastic Four next year. Does that? I mean, is that an indication more to like one side, like DC being just more well
It
prepared,
just
or is it just?
it's
I don't
yeah,
know if
that's what
that's a
it's that's the vibe
necessary
I'm getting.
comparison.
A
Okay.
little bit. It's
Yeah.
just like they literally started filming in February and are just
Right.
finishing now, and
Right.
now they have like so many like okay, so if they're let's say they're just say August. Let's go with August. That would give them at least maybe let's say half of a month of August. So September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. That's almost a full year of post production.
Right.
And even then, that gives them time for reshoots,
Mhm.
for proper VFX, because God knows
Right.
Marvel doesn't have those anymore, and
Well, you know,
anything
if you're a
extra that
Marvel
they need
VFX
to do,
artist, you're
and
gonna have to
second
work
unit stuff as
like
well.
24 hours a
So,
day.
so
Yeah.
you know, yeah, like maybe DC VFX artists will actually get bathroom breaks.
Yeah.
That'll be great, right?
Wouldn't that be nice?
So and not be treated like Amazon warehouse workers. Anyway,
Yeah, now
but
you're really
yeah,
going down a rabbit hole.
but yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited for, don't get me wrong, and I think I'm just like maybe I'm biased because I was always more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan, but
Mhm.
Marvel, the most famous Marvel superhero, is the thing that got me into comic books. So I don't know, like I am a little bit more biased towards DC. It's just like it just and it also doesn't help. I've been so scorned by Marvel at this point that it's just like they've made me stop caring. Meanwhile, I feel like, and it's a little bit of a cheap shot because it's like DC is starting fresh, which could be either really good or really bad, depending, and we'll
Yeah.
see. But I feel like that gives me more reason to care because it's like, okay, starting fresh, let's see where we go from here.
Yeah.
And I'm on another I'm looking at another live stream. Oh yeah, the fucking DCU is not gonna go anywhere. It's like he's only gonna be introducing C and D list characters. It's like Superman, Batman, Supergirl, Swamp Thing. Those are all very well-known characters. Also Green Lantern, Booster Gold,
Mhm.
Paradise Lost is Wonder Woman adjacent. Yeah, but only C and D list characters. Sure. Anyway,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's side rant for something that's not even a part of this. So, I hate to be biased because I do love both companies. I love the comics of both. I love the animation of both. I love the movies of both. It's just like Marvel, I've just been scorned too much, and DC, specifically the DCU, I'm gonna give it a chance. Like I want to give it a chance. I haven't loved everything James Gunn has ever done, but he's given me more of a reason to care at this point. So, that's just how that's what's fueling me right now, let's say. So,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and I'm really excited to see again, you know, what this movie ultimately looks like. Superman has been filming, like you said, since I think it was February 29th was when they started filming, to be exact. And you know, they've just been going at it since. And quite frankly, there's just a lot of production that we have seen happen out in the front of, you know, out in the public eye. But and you just saw, by the way, in that little picture slideshow that there was My Adventures with Superman. They also had a panel this weekend at SDCC. So it was fun to see again that show continuing to, you know, go on. We've got Kite Man on air right now. If you're a DC fan, you're eating good. If you're a comic book fan in general, you're eating good. But speaking of eating good, you
depending.
know who else is going to be eating good now that the Falcone crime family is out of power and there's this power vacuum? We've got, of course, Colin
Great
Farrell
segue.
playing the Penguin.
Perfect.
Oswald Cobblepot. He's looking to eat good, and if not, you know, better than just about anybody
Yeah.
in Gotham, because he wants to rise up the ranks. Clearly, you know, he was looked down upon as just somebody who was just essentially a runner. He was just doing the dirty work for everybody else. He was running the Iceberg Lounge, and then nobody expected
Hmm.
him to actually even want to have the ambition to have the power that he's clearly craves and seeks. The first teaser trailer gave us an idea of what this penguin thinks like. Then the second trailer really gave us an idea of what the story and the expansive nature of the show is going to be, even though it's only 8 episodes. Now that we have got this new trailer, the third trailer, this was released at Comic-Con, and quite honestly, I'm
Yeah.
starting to love it, this show more and more. I know you
I'm
were very
okay.
skeptical with the first trailer, so what has your travel been with each successive trailer since?
In the words of Leonardo DiCaprio from Django Unchained, you had my curiosity. Now you have my attention. I will say that second trailer was a hell of a lot better. It does look like typical crime drama stuff, but you know what? I'm like Sophia Falcone. That's the thing that's getting me super stoked for this, because we get a shot of her in the pictures I sent. Of her in Arkham Asylum, and I'm like,
Yep.
oh, that's interesting. And they're also like, I don't know if she was like a serial killer in the comics. I know she was like batshit fucking insane in the comics, but like, I mean, look at that face, like Jesus Christ. But I think because I know, spoiler alert for the Tomorrowverse Long Halloween adaptation, but like I think they were like kind of doing that because they made the holiday killer Dent's wife, and I think that, I think they also teased that it would be Sophia Falcone. I don't know. It's just like, I feel like they're kind of grabbing from a lot of different aspects, and I think that's really cool. And this character has me really intrigued, and how she'll interact with Cobblepot. Like, she looks, I'm like, that is just, I'm really fucking curious here. And you know, she don't you mean Mavity? Anyway, but yeah, she looks great. I mean, yeah, Cobblepot looks great. I love me some Clancy Brown. But I will say it was funny because Colin Farrell introduces the trailer, and it's so weird to see him because he's so
His
skinny,
accent,
and then it's just like, and then
yeah.
you know, he also has his native Irish accent, and then he's just playing this character. It's just like, it's so fucking different, and it's great stuff, and I'm really excited for it, and I'm getting more excited for it. And I will say with going back to the original headline, Penguin returning for season 2, Batman 2, sorry. For Batman 2, I feel like he's going to be a background character, and I feel like he's going to sort of be like a background antagonist.
Wait, hold on. Because this movie, if you guys have not seen our show that we talked about this last week, Matt Reeves and Dylan Clark, his producing partner over at DC, they've made it pretty clear that this Penguin series is meant to literally bridge the gap between the Batman and the Batman Part 2, or the Batman 2, whatever you want to call the sequel, to the point where this picks up like a week after the events of the Batman, where Riddler has flooded the city of Gotham. And then, I just called it the city of Gotham City, whatever, Gotham. But basically, where the series ends is right where the next movie starts. So if this is a show about the rise to power of the Penguin, do you think he rises all the way to the point where he's the primary threat to Batman in the next second movie? Or is he just still going to be kind of, he's there, but he's not quite like big enough that the Batman needs to take him down?
He might be like a big threat, but he's not going to be the guy. You know, I don't think he's good, because it's just like, it's too much of him. Like, I want to see other characters. Like, don't get me wrong, Colin Farrell has been great. I like his Penguin. I like how he like walks with a limp, so he's like waddling like a penguin. It's like, you're cute. But I just and so by the way, September 19th, we do have an official date now, September 19th.
Oh yeah.
But I think I just, and I feel like Matt Reeves, I understand this is the crime saga. I think we're getting more than a trilogy at this point. I think we might be getting.
Oh no, I think they made it pretty clear that this is going to be a whole cinematic universe that's going to run concurrently to the DCU.
Yeah,
it's going to be clearly separate and doing its own thing. Like, they're starting, they sort of merged a bit of the GCPD and what they wanted to do with that show into what we are getting now with the Penguin. The Arkham Asylum show didn't really get picked up, but but even so, they said there's a couple of other concepts that they're working on now. So, and they're gonna, obviously, I guarantee you, if this show does really, really well, it is an HBO original now, and is gonna be releasing on Max, 1 episode at a time, and it's got 8 episodes, which means we're gonna be with this show for 2 months. If it becomes the biggest show in the world while it's airing, like Peacemaker did, I can guarantee you this is gonna get a second season, because this character, like
Yeah.
you said, most likely
Or
isn't gonna
another
get written
spinoff.
off in this.
Like
Yeah, or like
maybe we might get like
the-
sorry to cut you off, but like we might get
Yeah.
like, instead of the Penguin season 2, we'll get like the Falcones versus the Maronis type shit.
exactly, yeah.
Like we might get like Falcone v Maroni, Dawn of Mob Gangs, you know? So like we'll be getting something like that.
By the way, dude, my favorite part of this new trailer was like just the beginning where Penguin, like Oswald, goes and basically you can see his mom is like just on the couch completely wasted, and picks her up and they sort of start like just dancing slowly and in the room, and she's like, so what are you gonna do with your life? He's like, what are you doing about your life? And like, are you gonna put yourself together, kind of thing, like a mother would ask her son. And he's like, I'm working on it, and his like Jersey accent, and I'm just like, dude,
Yeah.
this is so like, it immediately puts me back into like, okay, I'm back in the world of this Oswald Cobblepot, his resting bitch face, and
Yeah.
just the crime world, the epic, the epic part. I don't know, but the Batman crime saga, like this is what we are into. And the more I see of Christian Milioti, like the more I'm appreciative
Pretty
of the
much,
fact that
yeah.
they cast her, and the fact that she's going to give us a character that's going to be layered, and is going to be a character that's most likely going to move across from this CT series, hopefully into the movie. And quite frankly, like you said, of all the characters in this show that we already know about, I feel like her character, Sophia Falcone, probably has the greatest potential to be the next spinoff of this franchise. And that to me
Yeah.
has been really intriguing. And it just
Yeah,
overall,
we have the kid from go back to the previous image, but yeah, that kid was from Runaways. He played Wilder. He
Marvel's
was
running. Yes, yep.
yes, he was. So he has a little bit of, he's jumping ship from Marvel to DC after that got canceled. So I didn't watch the show. I wanted to watch it, but then it got canceled, and so I didn't have enough reason to fully watch it. But I heard he was good on the show. So I like him, like being like the protege to Penguin, being taken under his wing. Birds of a feather, perhaps. Anyway. But yeah, like I'm intrigued with how they'll do that, and I like that. But yeah, September 19th. That is a, what day is that? That is a Thursday. A lot of stuff on Thursdays.
There we go.
But yeah,
I mean, just think about. So
I can now officially say I'm excited for the Penguin. Not super excited, but it's looking good. It's looking good.
It's looking good. I mean, honestly, the first trailer really sung to me. The second trailer was, from just a pure editing standpoint, wasn't as good as the first, but actually it was still really good. I just thought the first one was like, oh my god, I can watch the show now. Like, you gave me all I need to know. But the second trailer obviously gives us more of an insight. The third trailer, they just keep knocking it out of the park. And this shot of him walking into the Iceberg Lounge, it goes to show you the scale of this show is going to match the scale of the movie, which to me is the biggest thing for doing anything that is a Batman adjacent project or property, where you don't necessarily get to see the Batman, or maybe you might get to see him once or twice. How do you make that interesting? How do you make that feel as important as the Batman movie itself? And you could see this right here, this whole TV show is going to feel like you're living in the same world, and no expenses spared. And I love that aspect of it. And I just, again, love how they're expanding these characters. You can clearly tell, kind of like what James Gunn is doing with Creature Commandos, and then bringing Rick Flag Sr. into Peacemaker, and even into Superman. You're seeing here that these actors that are being cast in these roles, they're not just bringing them in for 8 episodes of a TV show. They're saying, hey, Clancy Brown can jump across and be in the next Batman movie. We can definitely see, the Penguin continue forward. Obviously, he was already in the Batman, and you can see somebody like a Christian Milioti, who's a rising star in Hollywood, and clearly playing a character that's going to be important as far as the whole Falcone, Maroni, and the whole crime saga, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see where the show goes. I'm really excited. You're going to have this starting out in, what was this? It's going to be September 19th, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, but actually, no, September 19th. And then you said October, was it 17th or something, that we're gonna get Superman and Lois. We have Creature Commandos coming out. Is it December?
December.
I believe. Joker Folie
So we
Ado
have
is
one
coming out
thing
in
in
October.
September, two
It's
things in October, and a
yeah,
thing in December. It's like, and August with Cape Crusader.
it's,
Although I
exactly.
don't know how that's going to be, but nothing in November. November is
August
the
1st.
break month, I
Yeah,
guess. But stuff is
yeah.
going to be finishing up. But we'll see. But yeah, it's DC fans are eating good.
DC
They're
fans are
eating.
definitely
I don't
doing
know if
good.
good, but like they're eating. So
I mean, by the way, this is what speaking of the Penguin and speaking of Batman Cape Crusader, there's this one nugget I wanted to kind of share
oh
because I
yeah,
came across this on social media,
I
and it
saw
looks
this.
like the iteration of the Penguin we're getting, in Batman Cape Crusader is going to be a female Penguin, which is not something that we've really
They didn't
seen
even
before.
try. It just looks
So
like when in drag. Like straight up. It's just like, okay, here's the thing.
yeah,
I never understood. I still don't get it. I know people are probably gonna get mad at me, but
yeah,
I never understood gender bending or race bending characters. Like I just think it's kind of pointless. So that I mean I don't really at the end of the day it's like if Minnie Driver is a good actress, so like
right.
I'm sure she'll be good in the role. It's just like I don't get the point of it. And two, guys, you couldn't come up with something more creative than Oswalda. That's not even a name. Like you just stick an A at the end
That's
of
a
it.
little lazy. I will say that. That's a little
Olivia, Octavia, like there's other names other than like I don't know. It's
yeah.
just so fucking lazy to me.
Well,
So
well, look. Ultimately, if you decide not to watch Oswald a Cobblepot and Batman Cape Crusader, you can still watch Oswald Cobblepot
the true
and the Penguin, a true Cobblepot. Sure, we'll go with that. The Penguin series, of course, arrives now. We know in September 19th. It's looking fantastic. I hope we're gonna get to see a couple more, ad spots and maybe a little more of an insight into the show. I, for one, am not, very spoilers averse, but if you guys have had your fill with the amount of trailers they've already put out, then hey, just sit tight. It's only a couple of months away now. It's very close, and of course, Batman Cape Crusader is coming out in literally days' time. And if you're not a fan of all of that, you got Kite Man. Hell yeah, it's already out on Max, and I think episode 4 comes out this week. And John, you
this
are
is
going to be
Thursday.
back reviewing that, so we're
Yeah.
going to be talking about that this week. We're going to bring any other updates we have from Superman filming out. I think they're still in Cleveland with James Gunn, although it looks like they're done filming at the Union
Cleveland,
Terminal.
in
Or
Ohio
Cincinnati,
somewhere.
right? It's somewhere in Ohio. I know they have permits to film out there all the way through August. So whether it's reshoots or continuing to shoot at the other locations, it looks like most of what's left to be done is behind closed sets. But of course, this was San Diego Comic-Con weekend. There was so much to talk about. We had a lot of news coming out, of course, from Marvel's Hall H panel, of course, including Doctor Doom. RDJ is back. Whether it's a multiverse story or not, we get to find out soon enough. The Russo brothers directing both Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. And of course, on the DC side of things, we got tons of new trailers. We got a new DC Studios logo, which looks fantastic. And of course, we've got lots of inside looks at Superman and Lois. We've got inside looks at the Penguin. We have, of course, also talked a little bit about James Gunn telling us on Instagram that the engineer is now wrapped. Maria Gabriela de Faria, she's done filming her parts for Superman, the new movie, and of course, we have got a new look at the first DC project, the first DCU project, that of course being Creature Commandos, which is going to feature Rick Flag Sr., who's already signed up for the literally all 3 of the first projects that have gone into production for the DCU. He's going to be in Creature Commandos. He's going to be in Peacemaker season 2. He's going to be in Superman.
James Gunn is like,
James Gunn.
How, on a scale from 1 to 10, how angry are you at Marvel? 11. Okay, then I'll throw you in the first 3 things of my
everything.
Okay? Okay.
Yeah,
Frank Grillo deserves better.
Yeah,
but that's just
me.
And Crossbones.
I love how Caleb Underwood, by the way, he's like, yeah, why not just add an A to the name and call it a day? I'm like, yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. I love it. Now, before we end the show, as we always do, we do have some comments of the week that we want to talk to you guys about. The comments that you guys have left on videos. So let's talk about those. Now, last week we talked about the new Joker Folie Ado trailer, which, and as the title of the video suggested, it kind of blew our minds because it was just giving us another another deep dive into the world and the minds of both Joker and Harley Quinn, or
Mm-hmm.
Harleen Quinzel, as the synopsis says at the Venice Film Festival. So Michael TG5HR, you said, and this is towards the end of the trailer, that she's a doctor, she being Harleen Quinzel, who uses music to make inmates happy. It's shown at the very end of the second trailer. John, is that true? I couldn't really tell if that's what was going on at the end of that trailer.
I don't think
Yeah,
so. The thing is, she's never now. Obviously, she doesn't need to wear a fucking lab coat to be seen as a doctor, but like,
right.
I don't think she's dressed as a doctor throughout, like a psychiatrist would be throughout most of like the trailer. So I don't think she's gonna be a doctor. Yeah, I mean that's true. Like music helping inmates, but like just telling someone to sing doesn't automatically. Oh yeah, they're gonna be a doctor. Like I feel like that's a bit ridiculous.
It
I
feels
think
like a
she's just
bit
another
much,
inmate.
yeah. Because
Um,
there's no indication, and that sequence at the end just feels like they're just two inmates talking to each other, right?
yeah,
I'm trying to find the image that you're. It's from the scene. It's right towards the end of the trailer, like where obviously Joaquin Phoenix sort of. I think he mouths a few words of a song and then he walks away, and then he turns back around and gives her a smile, and
yeah,
I don't even think she's wearing a lab coat there. It's
no,
it's an interesting theory. It's an interesting theory for sure, but I don't know. I don't know,
I
Michael.
don't
Like
think she's.
it's
It's. I don't think she's gonna be. I mean, if she is, then fine. But it's. I'm not like mad or anything. That
yeah.
that is the character. But it just like she just doesn't look like a doctor. And I understand, like, I know the generic, like, oh, you have to be put into a lab coat to look like a doctor. I understand, like, not all doctors are gonna look like that, but like, she looks disheveled. She looks like she's wearing pajamas. She doesn't look like a doctor. Like, I know maybe that's like close-minded of me or something, but she doesn't look like a doctor. She hasn't acted like a doctor.
Yeah.
Like, okay, doctors are usually pretty functioning members of society for the most part, but like, do you think a doctor would throw a trash can through a fucking window to grab a TV? I
Yeah,
don't think
that's the
so.
part which I think like immediately cancels out that theory. By
Like,
the way,
I don't think she
Lenny's
would do that. Like, unless she's
yeah,
like, that's like after like her getting manipulated by Arthur. But I don't think that's the case. I
yeah.
don't.
Yeah. By the way, Lenny Sullen, thanks for joining the live stream. I know you're a little late to the party, perhaps, but if we were talking all about Doctor Doom, like what was it, like 40 minutes ago? So if you want to rewind, be kind and rewind, and you will see all of our thoughts. But yeah, I mean, in summary, as far as Doctor Doom goes, just for you, Lenny, I think John clearly thinks it's a bit of a reach that that they have done this, but
Okay,
um,
well, this takes place in fucking America, so get out of here, Limey. Jesus Christ. Anyway,
but
in
yeah, okay.
America, in
America.
America, fucking Gotham City is in America. Like, calm down. Get out of here.
Yeah, the rat therapist. Sorry, I just called him the rat therapist. Sorry, you're rat too. I'm mixing up my words at this point. We've been doing this show for like 2 hours. But yeah, she could be a music therapist. Music, possible.
I
But
don't know
it's
about that.
still just the fact that she like smashes that TV and then walks away with it, and then she's like there with a music cue sheet, and then she's telling Joker how she admires that he shot Robert De Niro's character in the first movie. I just don't know. Like I think they're just two crazy people who are having a shared delusion, which is exactly what the title of the movie implies. But
Yes.
hey, thanks, Michael, for leaving us that comment. We appreciate that you're checking us out and you're interacting with the show, and we will always try to bring your comments into the show. So here's the next comment that I wanted to go through. John, we were recently talking about Glenn Powell, and oh, that's the wrong comment. There we go. Glenn Powell potentially joining the DCU as Batman simply because he followed James Gunn and Andy Muschietti on
Yes,
social
that
media.
those
And then
theories.
Steven Anderson was like, he always leaves us like a ton of comments. Really appreciate you doing that because you give us so much to talk about. But he was like, John, bro, what do you think Patrick Schwarzenegger is playing in the DCU? His name
Yeah.
is following Gunn and most of the DCU players. So the logic must then imply that he's already in the DCU. So John, I ask you the question: do you think Patrick Schwarzenegger should play a character in the DCU? Maybe the second coming of Mr. Freeze.
I don't think he's gonna be um because I know he was. There was a rumor going around that he, Fionn Whitehead, and somebody else were playing Booster Gold. There was a rumor. All right, you eat beans on toast. Like, no country is the best if you eat beans on toast. Calm down. That's a ration from World War II. Get out of here. But yeah, there was a rumor that he was going to play Booster Gold, but again, it was just a rumor, and it was like a brief thing on some like small website. But the thing is, I don't really know much about him as an actor. I haven't really seen him that much, so I can't really say anything. But I'm sure he's a very good actor, and if he's good, I know he was on
the boy spinoff.
Gen V, the
Gen
boys
V.
spinoff.
Yeah.
So he does have some superhero prowess, but like obviously we'll see. I'm sure he's a perfectly fine actor. So yeah, I think if he's good, he's good, and if he's funny like Booster Gold, then use him. But I don't have a lot to say because I don't know. I haven't seen him in anything. So sorry.
Yeah, it's you gotta like be able to pull your weight. I don't know if he's ready for a lead role. Maybe he can join in and have a part to play in a DC project, but I don't know if he's maybe ready to carry anybody, any franchise, and not anybody, but any franchise. He's certainly got the broad shoulders to maybe down the road he could be Superboy, like like if in a Teen Titans sort of a aspect, but that's the closest thing I can think of. I don't know how much charisma he's got. I don't know him well enough to be able to tell you, but as far as the joke of I think, by the way, the comment is probably made in jest. Stephen is like, John, bro, if you're going by that logic, then clearly Patrick Schwarzenegger must be, angling for a role in the DCU. Now we just got Rat2 sending us flags. Canada, Hart, Britain, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. I guess Rat2, you're a fan of the United Kingdom and the British Isles, as it were. So yeah. And yeah, you know what? I practically have family down in the British Isles. I lived in Manchester myself, so I have always had fond memories of the UK. So yeah, I'm on your side, Lenny. If I'm also a big fan of Angel Delights. I still like to have my pudding, and just instant pudding, if you will. You just take a packet, you throw some milk or water in it, you mix it up, and you eat it. That's how I like to do it. But the last comment that we've got for the day, before you guys skew my words, I caught myself there. Steven Anderson continued on, leaving us another lengthy paragraph from the same episode. We were talking about Glenn Powell potentially being in the DCU, and he talked about how people who are skeptical of Andy Muschietti leaning into just the campiness that we got from Joel Schumacher's Batman. He said that, look, while the DC Batman will clearly be a little more fantastical than what we have seen in the Batman with Robert Pattinson, it feels like, because Andy Muschietti, or Steven feels like Andy Muschietti is a horror director by nature, so he's probably not going to go quite all the way with campiness. He's still going to have horror elements, and he's going to ground the character in some level of darkness, like kind of what we've been used to with Batman ever since the 1989 iteration with Michael Keaton. So what do you think? Do you think that, as per Steven, that, given the opportunity, Andy could give us a really, really good DCU interpretation of the Dark Knight, a detective, and no doubt in his mind, certainly for Steven, that Glenn will hit the gym, Glenn Powell, that is, and he's not worried that about the training part. He's just wondering how Glenn can pull off the dark and serious aspects of the character, which is something we talked about the other day. But like, what do you think, John?
I think, well, the thing is, I mean, look at Shazam. Like, David F. Sandberg was also a horror director, and that was very fun. And in fact, you did have that one scene with the 7 deadly sins, but that was a horror scene, not necessarily the whole movie. Meanwhile, that was a very fun, lighthearted movie. Aquaman, James Wan, also pretty, for the most part, lighthearted, with that one horror scene with the trench. Yeah. So I don't think Andy Muschietti is gonna have like a super hard-edged Batman. I don't think they're gonna go again. It's gonna be, he's gonna be in a world with Superman and Wonder Woman, all these characters. So I think what they're gonna do is, I believe Andy Muschietti is gonna be more fantastical. I don't think they're gonna have like Adam West, like, ooh, that would be great. Don't get me wrong, but I don't have a ton of faith in it because like the Flash was just so horrible to me. And like almost nothing about that movie was good, especially the two Batmen that were in it. Like Michael Keaton slept through that fucking performance. And then Ben Affleck was like, I don't do anything but beat up poor people. Fucking bullshit or whatever the fuck the Lasso told him to say. So like, you know, I don't have a ton of hope for it.
He
I'm
didn't
really
say that.
curious.
I'm pretty sure you're having a false memory there. I don't think he said
Good.
he beat up poor people.
Or something like
I was
stupid
just
that was
saying.
like when he was like behind the lasso of truth, whatever
Yeah.
it was. But it was like essentially like just like nothing about that movie was good, almost nothing. And it's just like the two Batman, like, so I'm curious about the writer of Brave and the Bold. That's the thing I'm fucking curious about, because like there was rumors that John Logan was going to do it, and he is a fantastic writer. He's written a lot of great stuff. So I would like to see something from that. Would be great. Someone like that, like who can do like he did, like because even though he didn't write the script of Gladiator, because that production was by the seat of its pants, and he only did rewrites.
Yep.
So,
Very famously, infamously,
yeah.
yeah.
So A+ watcher, Gyllenhaal as Batman. Hashtag Gyllenhaal as Batman.
I think he would be fantastic.
He would be
I think
great.
he would be fantastic. Yeah.
But I think, yeah, haha, good. That was very good. But
yeah, we're getting to that part of the show.
I forgot what I was talking about. But yeah, John Logan, like Gladiator was like not historically accurate, kind of fantastical, and you know, it kind of adds like kind of into that. So if he did do those aspects, I could see him doing something as fantastical like Batman. And the thing is, John Logan did do a very good I Am Legend script, which was used for the Will Smith movie. Will Smith movie was crap, but that original script was really good. So I think he can definitely, John Logan would be a very good writer for that movie. So I just don't have a ton of trust in Andy Muschietti, and I don't think Glenn Powell can do dark and serious, because the thing is, yeah, 100% agree. Like, I don't want Andy Muschietti. I don't want Tom King, yet fucking James Gunn hired them for. That's the shit of James Gunn that I'm really not excited about. Like, if you're hiring those assholes, that's like, ew, what are you doing? But
I'm like, I mean,
Glenn Powell, the thing is, Glenn Powell hasn't done anything dark and serious yet. So, like, you know, I can't. Again, I think he can sell Bruce Wayne, most definitely, but he hasn't really done anything super dark and serious that would make me believe he could be a good Batman.
Yeah.
Well, yes,
I mean,
but John Wesley Shipp is better than both. So, you know, that's just,
you know what I will say though, if you go by the logic of Glenn Powell's character from Twisters, if you feel it, chase it. Or like, I think there's another catchphrase he has when you mix it up. If I had that video today, I will totally load it up where he just turns it, Tornado, I am coming for you. There's your one. Like, it's perfect. Or if you feel it, write it. Like, well, actually, no, I might have mixed those up. There's a couple of different catchphrases that Glenn Powell uses in the movie. His character, I think it would be, it's a bit of a stretch, but then again, most people that have been cast throughout history as Batman, nobody saw coming, and nobody really thought they could pull it off. I mean, ultimately, you know, whether it's Christian Bale when he was cast, or whether it was Ben Affleck, the whole Batfleck controversy. I mean, a lot of people love him, and whether you don't love him, I mean, Mr. Michael Keaton, he still goes around saying he's Batman, and most people will not say no when he says I'm Batman, and you're like, yes, you are. Like, it's kind of hard to argue with
Adam West walked on the set and everybody knew he was Batman. He didn't have to fucking say I'm Batman.
Okay. Now you're
people,
just
I walked on the set.
You're just
people
doing
knew
that
who
to
I fucking was.
a reaction out of me. I know. Okay. All right. You know what? But I'm just trying to say we really haven't had many bad Batmen on screen. Even Robert Pattinson, Twilight Boy, like he is now, like people can't wait to see the second Batman movie. So I think whether it's Jake Gyllenhaal, whether it's Glenn Powell, and yeah, Rat 2, I'm glad you appreciated the joke. So yeah, by the way, it will be interesting to see who they cast, not only as Batman but also as Damian Wayne. We have also, if you guys are relatively new to the channel, go back in the playlist for DC Daily. We did fan cast of a lot of the actors and for Batman Brave and the Bold. I think we need to revisit that, especially in light of Alan Ritson being like, "Hey, I'll shout it through the rooftops. I want to play Batman," and of course Glenn Powell like hinting through his social media follows, or maybe Patrick Schwarzenegger throwing his name in the hat. He's like, if you're going for this like Batman Beyond version, maybe I can be Batman Beyond. Maybe I can be, Terry. What was his name? Terry McGillis? Or like I forget the name of the Batman Beyond character. But yeah, there's clearly a lot of potential. Batman is the most popular character in all of DC Comics, and I hope we get some news about that movie because it's been a while. Like I don't know what Andy Muschietti has been up to outside of working on that prequel to
Welcome
it.
to Derry.
He needs to get on the horse and like let's get this movie up and running. But yeah, Watcher, you're right. Nobody liked Keaton. You can go back and find new people like you're gonna have to find like footage from news programs and stuff where people were reacting to be like Michael Keaton as Batman. But hey, Terry McGinnis. Thank you, Watcher. Terry McGinnis. I was like, it's Terry Mc something. I unfortunately confused it with Kelly McGillis from Top Gun since I'm a big Top Gun fan. But yeah, I mean, even Heath Ledger's Joker, like nobody thought Heath Ledger could play Joker. So ultimately, let's trust the casting directors. It's an exciting time, Red 2. It is an exciting time. John, you said it. San Diego Comic-Con weekend. The new DC Studios logo. We have got a ton of new announcements from Marvel, whether you like them or not, that's one thing. But we have got lots to look forward to in the world of DC, from Future Commandos to the Joker Fall You Do to, of course, we have got Kite Man Hell Yeah on air. You've got more shows coming. You've got the Penguin coming our way. You've got Superman Lois wrapping up on the CW. There's so much to talk about. Superman is still filming. We are starting to wrap out actors like Maria Gabriela de Faria, very long name, but of course the engineer is one of the characters we are really excited to see. And as this week continues, we'll bring more news to you guys. Anything that breaks, whether it's from Superman, whether it's from the world of the Penguin, whether it's from any of the other Creature Commandos projects or Kite Man, hell yeah, we're gonna talk to you guys about it. We're gonna break down the trailers. We're gonna go way too deep, and we're gonna then bring your fan comments in. As always, thank you so much for interacting with us on this live show. If you were in the live chat, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for leaving us your comments. Of course, we like to bring you guys in. It's an interactive show, as always. If you were watching this, or if you're watching this now and we're not live, then drop your comments down below, because as we did for Steven, as we did for Michael, as you have done for the Watcher, for Rat 2, for Lenny, for Fiona. We had Geek Ledger stopping in the chat. So many of you guys, Hunter Iggy earlier, Caleb Underwood, Geek Ledger, I think I said your name twice. Even Shema, who was like, sort of like, you guys have really terrible takes. Anybody and everybody, Troy Daniel, you were there earlier, of course. Thanks for stopping by. And, the DC logo is fire. Yes, Lenny, agree with you completely. The new DC Studios logo is fire. So we'll be back again tomorrow with a new episode of DCU Daily. And then, of course, we have the Also Curious show. We already did a review of Deadpool and Wolverine last week, but we're going to have Angelino talking about it. And John, of course, as always, we'll have the latest news from the world of movies and television. And so we'll see you guys here next time, another episode of DC Daily. Until then, go out there, watch something DC related. And we'll see you here next time with the latest news in the world of DC. And have a good rest of your evening, guys. We'll see you back here tomorrow.